When exploring caves, there are often areas that require ropes or other rigging to be able to navigate safely while also minimizing impacts. Ropes and webbing used to protect vertical pitches, traverses, or simply areas with exposure must be properly rigged. When establishing rigging, there are several key principles that should be followed. The key principles are to minimize impact to the cave environment, to locate anchors for ease in getting on and off rope, to locate anchors to avoid hazards, and to build anchors that are simple, strong, and redundant. Ideally, all anchors will conform to all of these principles, but in reality there are often trade-offs that must be made. However, when establishing a new anchor, every effort should be made to consider each of these principles and build an anchor that comes as close to ideal as possible. Avoid rushing and getting caught up in the thrill of discovery. If hardware or ropes will be left fixed in a cave, then, in the interest of both safety and conservation, build anchors with an eye to the future. Build them to last such that they are sustainable for many years or decades to come, and for whoever may need to use them. It's important, as with nearly all aspects of cave exploration, to consider the effects of rigging on the cave environment. Whenever possible, avoid rigging in locations that might lead to damage either on the pitch or below. Avoid areas with speleothems, and rig in a way that limits travel to a single narrow trail. Utilize natural anchors whenever possible, and if bolts are necessary, use corrosion-resistant hardware such as stainless steel. However, never compromise on the safety of an anchor in the name of conservation. Conservation and safety are codependent. A rescue or body recovery are some of the worst things that can happen to a cave, not to mention a caver. Ensuring that rigging keeps cavers safe should be among the most important of all conservation concerns. When choosing the location of an anchor, place it such that it makes getting on and off rope safe and convenient. Traverse lines may be necessary to be able to clip in before approaching an edge. These should be approximately chest high. A traverse line at this height is relatively easy to clip into with a cow's tail, but minimizes the impact forces in the event of a fall. For the main anchor, rigging high makes it easier to rappel or climb over a lip. Also choose anchor locations that avoid hazards. Hazards might include things like running water, loose rocks, slippery footing, or sharp edges. It's also important to consider where the rope will hang, and contact points with the cave wall below the anchor should be minimized. If contact with walls or ledges can't be entirely eliminated, then there should be a plan to address these areas with a rebelay, deviation, or rope pad. There is an acronym commonly used by the rock climbing community when building a belay anchor. This also has its use in caving, and it is SERENE. The S stands for solid or strong. It means that each placement within an anchor must be able to support a worst-case load along with a safety factor. The E stands for equalized and means that a multi-point anchor should be rigged with rope, webbing, or cord in such a way that the load is shared between the individual placements. The R stands for redundant and means that there should be multiple placements comprising an anchor such that if any one placement fails, that the remaining placements will still be able to support the load on the anchor. The second E stands for efficiency. It means that the anchor should be efficient both in the time and effort needed to place it, as well as the amount of hardware and rope needed to rig it. Finally, NE stands for no extension. It means that if any part of the anchor fails, that there won't be a shock load applied to the rest of the anchor due to slack in the system. There are three main types or categories of anchors, and some combinations of these categories may be used. These are natural anchors, bolt anchors, and gear anchors. Natural anchors use the natural features near entrances or within cave passages, and include trees, large rocks, natural bridges and pillars, natural threads, bollards, chockstones, and secondary deposits such as stalagmites and columns. Bolt anchors include mechanical bolts such as wedge, sleeve, nail-in, and self-drives, as well as glue-ins. Gear anchors are much less common in caving due to the corrosive environment, but would include artificial anchors such as pitons, nuts, cams, and stemples. As a very general rule, the minimum number of individual placements that would comprise an anchor are 1 for natural anchors, 2 for bolt anchors, and 3 for gear anchors. Again, this is a minimum, and it depends on a number of factors including the type of use and the maximum load that must be supported, the quality of rock, and the type of hardware being used. Look for additional videos on preparing that will cover construction and use of natural anchors, bolt anchors, rebelays and deviations, and traverse rigging. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button. Subscribe if you aren't already to learn about other videos on the topic of caving.
Off the next rope. I'm off rope.